The super industry has launched an unprecedented advertising attack against the big banks, likening them to foxes in a henhouse. It's because the banks want to become the default choice for super accounts. It comes as a debate rages about how an idea to allow first home buyers to use retirement savings for a house deposit. Late this afternoon, the Treasurer Scott Morrison ruled out the proposal, but not before it had been rejected by a long list of financial and political heavyweights. Here's Emily Stewart.
Bedtime.
Good night, Doris.
The big banks want to get their hands on your super.
Tonight, Industry Super is launching an attack on the big banks.
And they're putting pressure on our federal politicians to let them in. Banks aren't super.
Industry funds are the default funds if workers don't choose their own superannuation. They're angry the bank-owned funds are pressuring the federal government to change those laws so they can muscle in.
Well, we hope our members, of course, will be alerted by this, and we're also hoping that the politicians will stand up to the banks.
It comes as the Turnbull government finds itself embroiled in a debate about letting first home buyers plunder their super to pay for a deposit.
The idea of people using their super for housing or for a first deposit is absolutely bonkers.
This week, the Assistant Treasurer, who's working on the housing affordability package for the government's May budget, didn't rule it out.
Anything we do on the demand side of the ledger in the housing affordability package will be finely calibrated to make sure we're not just, in a sense, lazily pumping more money into the market.
Plundering super accounts to pay for housing was first raised as a solution to affordability and squashed in the early 1990s and again in 2015 when Malcolm Turnbull and Matthias Cormann both argued against it. And today, the father of the modern super system, former Prime Minister Paul Keating, penned an opinion piece slamming the idea. He said the system is the envy of the developed economies. Only the most reckless and willful government would abort the policy settings to put the system at risk. Treasurer Scott Morrison again refused to be drawn on it.
Treasurer, what do you make of Mr Keating's criticism of the suggestion that young workers be able to dip into their super to buy a home?
I'll leave his comments to your own analysis. What I'm focused on as we prepare the budget is to deliver a package of measures that can reduce the pressures on Australian families who are looking to buy a house, who are looking to rent a house, who are looking to have more affordable access to housing in this country.
Under sustained pressure this afternoon, he finally ruled it out.
Has the Council of Financial Regulators advised the Treasurer, formally or informally, that it has concerns about proposals to allow access to superannuation for housing purposes?
Hear, hear.
The Treasurer has the call.
Well, Mr Speaker, for that to be the issue, the government would actually have to have a proposal along those lines. Now, Mr Speaker, we have no such proposal along the lines that the Shadow Treasurer has referred to. I mean, matters regarding any and all matters related to housing affordability will be addressed in the budget, and it's a few months away.
Housing analysts agree with Paul Keating and say it's a bad idea.
If I'm somebody who has a super fund and I'm in my perhaps late 20s or early 30s, I will have a relatively small balance in that fund at the moment. And if I then take it out to use it as a deposit, it probably won't be enough for a deposit in a number of locations, particularly around perhaps the major cities of Sydney and Melbourne. But also I'm diluting my savings ability in superannuation.
They also say it'll hurt rather than help housing affordability.
With all these sorts of incentives, be it first-time owner grants or access to super, it will just lift prices by the amount that's accessible. So it actually is a net-sum game.
Even the Financial Services Council, which represents big banks, cautions it could further fuel the market. Last week, new figures from the ABS show investor lending has surged almost 30% in the past year. And analysts say there'll be no fix for first home buyers without cooling the investor side of the market.
negative gearing and the capital gains, which makes investment property so attractive at the moment, is probably the root cause of the issue that we've got. With so much investment property in the market at the moment and so many investors still keen to buy further, essentially they are pricing out other sectors of the market, including first-time buyers.
Emily Stewart with that report. And for more on the backdown from raiding super accounts for housing, I was joined by the ABC's business editor, Ian Verinder. So, Ian, the Treasurer, Scott Morrison, has now ruled this out. Obviously, there was strong opposition to it.
Yeah, he's ruled it out with good reason. There's been universal opposition to it, and for good reason, because whenever you do these kind of programs, whenever you throw more money at a situation, whether it's a first home buyers grant, whether it's access to superannuation funds, you're actually putting more demand into the equation. You're bumping up the price of houses. That makes housing less affordable. Plus, you've got the added problem of taking superannuation out of young people's accounts, which means that down the track they'll retire with not enough cash.
The Treasurer's been talking up expectations, though, of addressing housing affordability in the budget, which is only just a couple of months away now. So this is out the window. What's left on the table?
Well, you can only do one of two things. You can either increase supply, which is what the government has been trying to do in the housing market. So, you know, you encourage more and more building, and that way prices eventually moderate or come down. Or you can take demand out of the equation, and that means doing something about investor loans. So either capital gains tax or negative gearing.
There's also the issue that there could be some sort of land tax rejig where you strip out some other costs of housing and bring in a flat land tax. I mean, do you think that that would have legs in the budget?
Look, I don't think any government really has the guts to try and introduce a measure like that. You know, introducing a new tax is always really problematic. It could work, you know. If you took out the impost that's around actually transactions, you know, stamp duty, and replaced it with a land tax, that could work, because you would then mean there'd be a lot of housing that is not used at the moment that people would decide, well, you know, it's not worth just letting it idle, leaving it idle. You know, let's sell it and get somebody in there. Let's get our money out.
Well, we'll see what comes in the budget. Ian, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Elise.